And that's their weakest point and our strongest hope. Because when they come out with the new United Nations Charter, they're going to put it in all sorts of candy. They're going to make it in a very positive context, and they're going to try to tell you that it's wonderful to have this new charter, but you look at the fine print and it will literally put the United Nations in command of everything. You will not even be able to take a single breath without their permission. We have seen some of the implementing language in the United Nations documents. I've read thousands of these things. And by the time they get it all put together, they will control everything, everything, everything that you do. That's what they intend. And this special committee is supposed to be rewriting the United Nations Charter, and it was supposed to be introduced to the world last fall, 2 weeks after 9/11. Well, with the crisis developing after 9/11, they postponed it for a year. We'll see if it comes out this fall, in the year 2002. I don't know if it will or not. But the fact is, when it does come out, we need to start moving. And stay tuned, because once it's out, we will analyze it, get all the specifics, so that you have some leverage and so forth to talk to your friends and neighbors. And number 13, the United Nations' role in developing a new international partnership. This is a partnership between big government at the UN level as well as the US level, big corporations, and non-governmental organizations. And Joan Vian will be here tomorrow morning. She's going to explain more of this. I'm not going to get into it. I could spend the whole time just talking about this, but it is, I call it the unholy trinity, because basically by this they have the whole command and control system set up where you have no wiggle room whatsoever. The United Nations' role in promoting new global human order is the last item, and you have to sit and scratch your head and say, what are they talking about? The new human world order. Well, they have big plans for you and I. We're not going to know the full details until the new United Nations Charter is released, but it should come very soon. Things are happening very rapidly now, and it's just a matter of months, maybe a couple of years, but mostly a matter of months. The other thing that they're working on, and I'm not going to go into more detail here, is the Earth Charter, which came active in April 15th or March 15th of the year 2000. It's going to be introduced to the world this September on the International Meeting or Conference on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, Africa, South Africa. And it's going to then be accepted, and it's a new global ethic that you and I are going to be forced to adhere to. In fact, there's a treaty actually waiting in the wings called the Covenant on the Environment and Development that will put the force of law behind this new Earth Charter. And it's all going to start happening in September of the year 2002. And basically, there has been this consensus that the Earth Charter should be the articulation of spiritual visions that reflect the universal spiritual values, including but not limited to ethical values, a people's charter that serves as a universal code of conduct for ordinary citizens, educators, business executives, scientists, religious leaders, non-governmental organizations, and so forth and so on. It's going to affect everyone. And what is it based on? It's based on the pantheistic belief that nature is God. And again, we're going to, Tex Mars is going to be talking about this, more of that, I think, this afternoon. I can't get into it. I could spend the whole time just on that. But nonetheless, realize that this thing is very, very serious, because it will force you to bend your knee to nature and worship nature. Now, the global commons, of course, is the entire Earth's environment. And what they're saying here is that an increasing, this is the Commission on Global Governance that released this report, Our Global Neighborhood, in 1995. Everything that we're seeing happen today came out of the report, Our Global Neighborhood, done by the United Nations funded Commission on Global Governance in 1995. In an increasingly interdependent world, the notions of territoriality, independence, and the non-intervention have lost some of their meaning, and in certain areas, sovereignty must be exercised collectively, particularly in relationship to the global commons, the environment. They're setting up, I'm not going to go into detail again, but they're setting up an international EPA that will have absolute authority over what you do, how you do it, and when you do it. And thank God, the key cornerstone of this, we were able to stop in the United States Senate in 1994, an hour before the senators were scheduled to ratify it. We stopped it dead in its tracks by exposing it. If you do not know that there are 4 or 5 global factions vying for political power, then you need to know that. I had some water up here. What happened to it? I don't know. Anyway, let's go on. Looks like somebody's going to try to grab some. There are 5 international power factions. This is not a united effort to create a world government that everybody is in lockstep. Don't ever think that it is. It's not. Never has been. It's being led by the United States and Great Britain, the financial systems of the United States and Great Britain. Realize that. Up until recently, the European Union, or Europe, has been a part of it. But if you've noticed that the European Union seems to be coming against the United States and Great Britain on a lot of other things, if you've been watching the news, you'll be seeing this. And realize that the socialist European Union is fighting tooth and nail the capitalistic system of the banking system of Great Britain and the United States, or the Anglo-American axis, as I call them. They've been fighting them tooth and nail. Fantastic stories I could tell you that have happened over the last year in this power struggle between the European Union and the Anglo-American axis, banking axis, as a struggle for supremacy of this emerging world order or world government. It's happening. If you understand it, then when you start to see some of these things that don't make any sense, they'll start making some sense, because they are battling for this power. Now, the third faction is Russia. Russia doesn't have much power left, as most of you realize, but so it's playing the part of a spoiler. And they've done a number of things to try to align themselves with the socialist European Union, because they're a lot alike in their socialist approach to world concepts and so forth. And so they have been playing a lot of these footsies back and forth, and now they have just settled, and they're developing a major power structure, because Russia is starting to provide oil for Europe. And that's going to be a major thing to lock them together. A major thing. But it is interesting that Russia is playing this part of a spoiler in the overall effort to create a world government. Then you have www.discerningtoday.org. Discerning, you're trying to discern something. Discerningtoday.org. The second one is EPI. E is in Edward, P is in Pi, I is in intelligent.freedom.org, and the last one is sovereignty.net. Sovereignty.net has a tremendous, all of those sites have a tremendous amount of information on them that will help you to understand a little bit more in your particular area of interest. Yes?
You said those of you who are avid Bible scholars will get a kick out of this. Have you ever, when you see this whole fractionalization that's taking place, there's a scripture that says Yahweh is laughing because he has them in derision?
He has them in derision? Yes. That's what I really think is happening. If I have the time, I'm going to conclude my comments on what happened